the medulla of the adrenal gland, the middle part of the adrenal gland, is going to secrete catecholamines. And these are going to come from the chromaffin cells in the adrenal medulla. And the catecholamine that it secretes is epinephrine. And epinephrine helps with increasing the rate and the force of our heart contractions and dilating our bronchioles in our lungs. It decreases digestive and urinary function and constricts the blood vessels that go to the skin and the digestive organs and the urinary organs, so our blood pressure goes up. It also dilates the blood vessels that go to our skeletal muscles, and it dilates the pupils of our eyes. Now, catecholamines, they prolong the short-term effects of the neurotransmitter. And if we can get them into the bloodstream, it's going to last longer. They also can reach cells that are not innervated by the sympathetic nervous system. So to control all this, you're going to have a lot of involvement from the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland, as well as to the adrenal medulla and the sympathetic nervous system. Now, the pancreas is an organ that is in the endocrine system and in the digestive system. And for this discussion of the pancreas, we're looking at the endocrine function. It's a club-shaped organ. It's got a round head and a middle body and a thin tail, and it lies in your abdominal cavity, and it's posterior to your stomach. And it has an endocrine and an exocrine function. The exocrine function has to do with digestion. The endocrine function, that's involving the pancreatic islets, which are just little rounded islands of endocrine cells that secrete hormones into the bloodstream. And they secrete 3 different hormones: glucagon, insulin, and somatostatin. And that's what it looks like. You can see it there. Now, glucagon. Glucagon is made from the alpha cells in that pancreatic islet, and they're secreted from there. And it targets tissues in the liver, muscle tissue, and in adipose tissue. And it increases the levels of glucose and metabolic fuels in the blood. So it'll break down glycogen. That process is glycogenolysis. It will form new glucose, gluconeogenesis, in the liver. It breaks down the proteins in muscle tissue and releases those amino acids so that they can be used in gluconeogenesis. It releases the fats from the adipose tissue so it can be used for gluconeogenesis. It also forms fuel molecules called ketone bodies in the liver. So glucagon is going to increase our levels of glucose in our blood. Now, the ketone bodies are just 4 carbon molecules, and they're formed when fatty acids metabolize, and they get released into the blood and taken up in the skeletal muscle and the cardiac muscle. It can help us with losing weight. If you have extreme caloric restriction or you're starving, you will have a lot of ketone body formation, and sometimes that overwhelms the capacity of your cells to use all of them, and they accumulate in the blood, and that can lower your blood glucose, lower your blood pH, and you get ketoacidosis, which is very dangerous. Now, insulin, this is made from the beta cells that are in the pancreatic islets, and it's an antagonist of the glucagon. It does the opposite. It will cause the uptake and storage of lipids and amino acids and glucose to lower our blood glucose levels. It will help with the formation of glycogen in the liver, and it'll make fats from lipids and carbohydrates. It gives us a feeling of satiety or fullness. So glucagon will raise your blood glucose levels, but insulin will lower your blood glucose levels. They are antagonists. This is what happens in your body if your blood glucose level decreases. There's a stimulus, that's the decrease in your blood glucose. A receptor, which is an alpha cell in the pancreatic islet, it makes note of that, and it will cause the increase of glucagon secretion. And it also will cause the beta cells to decrease insulin secretion. And what happens, that glucagon triggers breaking down the glycogen and the making of new glucose. And we get our levels back to normal, and then the alpha cells decrease the glucagon secretion.